When I first moved into the neighborhood, I braced myself for the usual growing pains, adjusting to a new place, meeting the neighbors, learning the unspoken rules of the community, and figuring out trash day. What I didn't expect was a self-appointed dictator named Karen, who acted like she had veto power over everyone's lives. From day one, it was clear she had a vendetta against me, though I had no idea why. Maybe she hated new homeowners who didn't bow to her imaginary authority. Maybe she had too much time on her hands. Or maybe, just maybe, she'd been waiting years for someone to challenge her reign, and I'd unwittingly become that person. It started small, passive-aggressive notes about my lawn not meeting neighborhood standards, complaints about my trash bins being an inch too far from the curb, even a warning that my porch light was too bright at night. Every week, there was a new grievance, a new violation I'd supposedly committed. At first, I played along, trimming the lawn, adjusting the bins, dimming the light, but nothing satisfied her, because this wasn't about rules. It was about control. And then things escalated. It was a Tuesday morning when I checked my mail and found an official-looking envelope stamped with the HOA logo. I opened it, expecting another petty fine or some absurd regulation update. Instead, I found something laughable, an eviction notice. I blinked, then blinked again. I own my house. There was no way the HOA had the authority to evict me. Yet there it was, printed in Karen's signature condescending tone. Dear homeowner, after careful review, the HOA has determined that your property does not align with the established guidelines and aesthetic values of our community. Due to multiple infractions and ongoing disputes, we have initiated the process to have you removed from the premises. You have 30 days to vacate the property or face legal action. I let out a sharp laugh. Legal action? The HOA couldn't evict me from a home I own outright. But then I saw the final line. Failure to comply may result in foreclosure proceedings. My stomach dropped. Foreclosure. That wasn't just an empty threat. Some HOAs have been known to weaponize obscure bylaws, burying homeowners in fines until they were forced to sell. They couldn't just kick me out, but they could make my life miserable enough to push me out. Except Karen had made one fatal miscalculation. In her arrogance, she didn't realize I owned the house she was living in. That's right. Karen wasn't just my nightmare HOA neighbor. She was my tenant. Years ago, I bought several properties as investments, and hers was one of them. I leaned back in my chair, shaking my head at the absurdity. She'd sent me an eviction notice. I could send her one right back, with actual legal weight behind it. A quick review of her lease confirmed it. She'd violated multiple clauses, harassment of other residents, unauthorized property alterations, like those obnoxious HOA signs she planted everywhere, and, most deliciously, attempting to interfere with legal property ownership. I started drafting an email response, then stopped. No, this was too good for an email. If Karen wanted a fight, I'd give her one, face to face. That afternoon, I strolled toward Karen's house, my house, where she was predictably lecturing some poor neighbor about their garden fence being half an inch too tall. She turned when she saw me, her expression shifting into that rehearsed, smug superiority I'd come to know so well. I assume you got the notice, she said, arms folded. It's nothing personal, but the HOA has made its decision. You don't fit the community standards, and we can't have that. I took a slow breath, savoring the moment. Oh, I got the notice, I said, reaching into my folder. And I have a response. I pulled out the termination of lease agreement and handed it to her. Her smirk faltered. What is this? I watched as her eyes darted over the words. It took a few seconds, then realization hit. Her face went pale. This is a joke, right? She stammered, her voice thin. You can't do this. You don't have the authority. Oh, but I do, I said, smiling. See, Karen, the house you're renting? It belongs to me. You sent me an eviction notice for a property I own, while failing to realize you've been living in one I could have kicked you out of this entire time. I tilted my head. Funny how that works, huh? Her hands trembled as she clutched the papers, her mouth opening and closing like a fish gasping for air. No comeback, no legal loophole, just cold, hard reality. You wouldn't dare, she finally whispered, her voice barely audible. I pretended to consider it. Maybe, maybe not. Depends on how you want to proceed from here. I leaned in slightly. Because I'm done playing games. You either step down from your little HOA throne, or you step out of my house. Either way, Karen. I let the words hang. Your reign is over. Her face burned red. Her jaw clenched so tight, I thought she might crack a tooth. But I didn't wait for a response. I just turned and walked away, leaving her standing there, holding her own eviction notice in shaking hands. This was only the beginning. Karen, of course, was in full denial, even with the termination papers in her grip. She refused to believe I could actually evict her, but the law didn't care about her delusions, and neither did I. I could see the desperate calculations flashing behind her eyes. She was scrambling for some technicality, some obscure rule she could twist to escape reality. But the law wasn't on her side, and she had no idea just how airtight my case truly was. The very next morning, my inbox delivered exactly what I'd expected. The subject line said it all: illegal eviction notice, violation of HOA bylaws. I didn't even need to open it to know Karen's fingerprints were all over this. When I did open it, I nearly laughed aloud. Dear homeowner, it has come to our attention that you have engaged in unauthorized eviction proceedings against a community resident. The HOA strictly prohibits retaliatory actions and unlawful displacement. Any attempts to remove a member without due process will result in immediate fines and legal action. Consider this your official warning. Sincerely, HOA Compliance Team. Fines? Legal action? This was rich. I had to grudgingly admire her audacity. Karen was trying to use the HOA as her personal shield, but she'd forgotten one crucial detail. HOA rules don't trump state landlord-tenant laws. This wasn't some petty retaliation. This was a straightforward lease termination for multiple violations, harassment, unauthorized alterations, interference with property rights. All clearly documented, all completely legal. Still, I wasn't about to let this provocation slide. If Karen wanted to play bureaucratic games, I'd play to win. My response was professionally crisp, though my irritation bled through. Dear HOA Compliance Team, thank you for your concern regarding lawful tenancy matters. However, Ms. Karen's last name is not a resident in capacity you suggest. The panic in her eyes was unmistakable. She was searching for any loophole, any technicality she could exploit to escape the inevitable. But the law didn't bend for HOA busybodies, and she had no clue just how bulletproof my case really was. The next morning, my inbox delivered exactly what I'd expected. The subject line alone told me everything. Illegal eviction notice, violation of HOA bylaws. I exhaled, bracing myself for Karen's latest stunt. But when I opened the email, I nearly choked on my coffee. Dear homeowner, it has come to our attention that you have initiated unauthorized eviction proceedings against a member of this community. The HOA strictly prohibits retaliatory actions and unlawful displacement of residents. Any attempt to remove a homeowner without due process will result in immediate fines and legal repercussions. Consider this your formal warning. Sincerely, HOA Compliance Team. Fines? Legal repercussions? Oh, this was priceless. I had to hand it to her. Karen had nerve. She was trying to wield the HOA like a shield, hoping bureaucracy would save her. But she'd forgotten one critical detail. HOA rules don't override state law. This wasn't retaliation. This wasn't power play. This was a landlord enforcing a lease agreement that she had violated, repeatedly and in writing. Still, I wasn't about to ignore this little stunt. If Karen wanted to drag the HOA into this, fine. I'd respond in kind with cold, hard facts. My reply was polite, but the edge of my tone was razor sharp. Dear HOA Compliance Team, thank you for your email. However, there seems to be a misunderstanding. Ms. Last Name is not a homeowner in this community. She is a tenant residing in a property owned by me. My termination of her lease is based on documented breaches of contract, including harassment of neighbors and unauthorized alterations to the premises. These actions fall under landlord-tenant law, not HOA jurisdiction. Attached, You'll find copies of the lease agreement violation notices in relevant state statutes. Should you have any further concerns, I suggest consulting legal counsel before pursuing unwarranted fines or actions against me. The truth was simple. She was my tenant. As the legal owner of the property, I had every right to terminate her lease, and I had done so by the book, following state and federal housing laws to the letter. The HOA had no authority here, and if they tried to interfere, well, that was harassment, and I was more than ready to sue. I hit send on my email, a polite but firm legal smackdown, and leaned back in my chair, satisfied. Karen could throw all the HOA rulebook she wanted at me, but the facts were undeniable, or so I thought. That afternoon, a sharp knock rattled my door. 2 police officers stood on my porch, their expressions neutral, but their presence speaking volumes. "Sir, we need to speak with you regarding a complaint," one said. I exhaled, already exhausted. "Let me guess, Karen called you?" They exchanged a glance. "She did. Claims you're attempting an unlawful eviction and using intimidation tactics." I smirked, stepping aside. "Come in, officers. I got plenty to show you." 10 minutes later, after reviewing the lease, the termination notice, the documented violations, and even my email exchange to the HOA, one officer sighed and rubbed his temples. "This is completely legal. She's not being evicted unlawfully." His partner nodded. "Sorry about this, sir. Happens more than you'd think. Some folks don't understand. HOA rules don't trump property law." I gave a dry laugh. "Yeah, I'm getting that impression." Before leaving, they made a point of stopping by Karen's place. I didn't catch the full conversation, but the officer's final words carried clear across the street. "Ma'am, this is a civil issue, not a police matter. Don't call us again unless it's a real emergency." First crack in the armor, but Karen wasn't done. Over the next 30 days, she threw every desperate Hail Mary she could. Bogus harassment complaints dismissed, frantic appeals to the HOA ignored, and even a last-ditch plea to work something out. Too late for that. Eviction day arrived. Karen hadn't packed a single box. She stood on the porch, my porch, as the sheriff's deputies rolled up, clipboards in hand. "Ma'am, we're here to execute a court-ordered eviction," one said, tone firm. "You have 15 minutes to vacate. Any remaining belongings will be removed by a crew." Her face twisted. "This is my—" "No, ma'am." The deputy cut in, nodding toward me. "It's his. You're trespassing. Comply now or we arrest you." For the first time, real fear flashed in her eyes. She whirled on me, voice of venomous whisper. "You don't have to do this. We can—" I crossed my arms. "Negotiate? Now, after the fines? The police calls? The fake HOA threats?" I shook my head. "Pack your things, Karen. You're done." The deputies stepped forward. And just like that, her reign of terror ended with a sheriff's escort off my property. After all the police calls and HOA nonsense, I simply shook my head. "No, Karen. You made your bed. Time to lie in it." Her face crumpled into stunned disbelief. For the first time, the reality hit her. She had lost. With a huff, she stormed back inside, and for a brief moment, I thought she might actually leave peacefully. Then came the crash. "Ma'am, step away from the property," an officer barked, rushing toward the house. Karen had snapped. Picture frames shattered against walls. Drawers were yanked out and flung aside. Chairs toppled over. She was tearing through the place like a wild animal. I sighed, crossing my arms. "Huh, she's really go out like this." One of the officers turned to me. "You want to press charges for property damage?" I considered it. Oh, the temptation was sweet. But no, dragging this out wasn't worth it. "Not unless she breaks something major," I said. "Just get her out." And finally, after one last tantrum, she was— 15 minutes later, Karen stomped down the front steps, dragging a single suitcase behind her. Her face burned with humiliation as she shot me a final, venomous glare. She opened her mouth, maybe for a parting insult, maybe some pathetic attempt at saving face, but nothing came. There was nothing left to say. With a screech of tires, she was gone. The officers changed the locks. I signed the paperwork. And just like that, it was over. Karen, the neighborhood tyrant, the HOA self-appointed queen, had been dethroned. I stood on my porch, breathing in the quiet. No more fines. No more threats. No more petty battles over trash cans or porch lights. And then, the icing on the cake. The next morning, an email popped up. Dear homeowner, due to recent vacancies, there's an open seat on the HOA board. As a valued community member, we invite you to apply. I burst out laughing. Oh, the irony. Karen's house sat empty. The neighborhood was at peace. And now they wanted me to take her place? I deleted the email without a second thought. I'd never joined their little power club, but I would enjoy the knowledge that Karen, wherever she'd slunk off to, was seething, knowing she'd lost it all. Game over.